Extra, tell all about it. It's Dave's Big Dictionary. So today on Dave's Big Dictionary, the word that my darling and adorable wife Joyce came up with at complete random is translation. Translation. I'm going to find it. Let's see, I should have enough light where I don't need glasses to read it. I hope. This could get interesting, folks. Here's translation. It's a noun, of course. An act, process, or instance of translating. Well, that's really friggin' helpful. The process of forming a protein molecule from information in messenger RNA. Well, you knew that. But it comes, of course, from the word translate, to change from one place, state, or form to another, to convey to heaven without death. To turn into one's own or another language. That's weird. Isn't that interesting? That is interesting that the definitions in this dictionary, the one that we would find most common is number 3. It's like the idea of translating one language into another is actually less important, I guess, to this dictionary than the one of being translated without dying from one mode of being to another. Anyway, that's not the mode I'm going to use it in. Translation. So what are my thoughts on that word? I've seen the movie Lost in Translation. Thought it was pretty good. Scarlett Johansson was cute. Bill Murray is great. Not much to say about that. I do have 2 stories about translation, though. One of which, I don't know how interesting it is, but it was kind of cool that when I went for my master's degree, the first one, back at NYU, back in 1985, so I graduated, or I guess from 84, I was graduating from NYU undergrad in film and TV, did all my credits, and then they made it very convenient and easy for me to stay in and get my master's there. I was doing film and TV stuff. And, they waived certain credits I had already taken, and they figured, hey, if you keep on doing the master's, you can get her done without taking full course load for 2 years. It would be closer to a year and a half. So fine, great. But the one thing I had to do was a language requirement. Now, I had taken AP Spanish in high school. I was actually pretty good. I was one of the best in my high school in Spanish. And I've talked about this before, that I felt really, really, hoity-toity and proud of myself. I'm good with languages. And I was getting 90s and 100s on all the tests and quizzes in Spanish in high school. And then my wife and I were invited to Argentina many years ago. And I found out just how paltry and useless my high school Spanish was, and how little I actually understood, how little, if somebody was talking to me in fast Spanish, and especially Argentine Spanish, which is not textbook, ULIT high school Spanish, just how little I actually knew or could use or facilitate, and they'd be taking me to the theater, where everybody spoke in Spanish, expecting me to have a sense of what's going on. And I'm just hearing, and I catch a word. It's like, oh, there's a word. And barely even get the gist of what was going on in a 2-hour show. So, but still, coming out of high school, I felt like hot shit, because I took AP Spanish, I did really well in it, no problem, and it typed me, and it kept me out of having to do a Spanish language in college, or I was able to replace it with an English, do English as a language kind of thing in college. I don't recall. But when I went for a master's in writing, in playwriting and screenwriting, suddenly that cropped up again. This idea of, you need a language requirement as part of humanities. It's one of the things you have to do. So they said, you've got to take a class. I could have done it. They said, or you could type out of it, you can test out of it, and then take another class more directly related to what you actually want to do. So I said, hey, let me take the test. I have nothing to lose. I don't think the test cost much money, or if any. I'll take it. If I pass, I don't have to worry about the requirement. And if I fail, I'll take another Spanish class, or maybe I'll try French or something like that. So I take the test, quote unquote. And it's not even oral. It's a written test in front of you, and what you had to do was translate back Spanish to English. So it had to test your comprehension of written Spanish. If it had been an oral test, if I had to speak to someone for 10 minutes in Spanish, I would have failed. That would put me right back in elementary, like, hola, me llamo David. ¿Cómo te llamas? Oh, es bueno. It's like, forget it. But written Spanish, which you're much more comfortable with, so they give me like 5 or 6 paragraphs of something to translate. And I just remember going along like gangbusters and having very little problem. And I do have a facility with language, and I wanted to prove myself so that as I'm reading it, and I realized, I can do this. I actually do know what this is. And I would put it very specifically in idiomatic, very conversational English, as opposed to, I'm sure some people who took the test were trying to do like word by word by word in a very kind of stultifying, grammatically perfect English translation. And I'm just going, this is basically saying this. Let me translate that, since I know what it means, into conversational English. And I just remember the one thing that I thought would make me fail. Because I got about 3/4 of the way through this article, through this piece that I was reading, and it got to an idiom that I had never heard of. And and I knew it wasn't a direct translational thing. I don't think I was allowed to have a Spanish dictionary with me, but somehow I seem to remember that you were even allowed that you could thumb through and have a Spanish dictionary. I don't recall. But either way, it was useless. And then I just came across this sentence, and I remember spending 10 minutes on it, because I had a lot of time. I was breezing through this, and just wondering and trying to look for root words of Latin and all the other words around it. And I just knew that it's not just a translation of a word. This is some kind of idiom in Spanish that is translated weirdly into English, and I just fudged it. I don't know what I wrote for that sentence, and then I kind of dribbled off, and I went from being like, hey, I'm pretty good in Spanish, I'm doing this, I'm gonna ace this, to going like, I'm lost, and then just trying to finish out, ignominiously slouching out of the room going, oh well, we'll see. I never know exactly what the grade was that I got on the test, but I did well enough to type out, to pass, and not to have to take a language class as part of my master's program for that degree. So that was kind of cool. I took another screenwriting class or a radio writing class or something instead, which is what I really wanted anyway. So, yay on that. But I'll never forget. I would love to have gone back. I would have loved the opportunity. I guess I could have asked for it after it had been graded weeks later to say, what the hell was that sentence? What on earth did it mean? What was the translation of it? Because I remember nothing else about that material. So there's that translation story. And then there's that other one. When I was even younger, much younger, in fact, and I was in half-a-day English, half-a-day Hebrew school. It was called Bialik School on Ocean Parkway in Brooklyn, New York. A school that no longer exists. They took it away years ago. But back in the day, it was a private school. My parents wanted to send me to a private school, A, because they were better than the public schools in Brooklyn, and B, to have a good conservative Jewish upbringing, where half the day I would have really good teachers in social studies, in math, in English, and history. And then half a day would be studies of the Bible, studies of the Jewish culture and holidays. So it was really like inculcated into me all the way through grade 7. Half a day English, half a day Hebrew. And again, I felt pretty okay about Hebrew. I could read the Bible, for gosh sakes, and the commentaries on the Bible in 5 different types of Hebrew print. There's script, then there's the weird Rashi writing without the vowels under it. Craziness, right? But I'm spending hours on this every day, week after week after week in school. So I'm feeling pretty good about my Hebrew. And then I think Mom and I were on Church Avenue in Brooklyn shopping for something, and we go into a store, and there's a store owner, and there's a guy there probably an Orthodox fella, who spoke Hebrew and virtually no English. And the store owner, a Jewish guy, but didn't speak a word of Hebrew. And this guy just wants to buy something, doesn't know what to, etc. And now, Mom and the store owner are turning to me. Because, hey, I'm in 6th grade, something like that, and I'm supposedly supposed to know Hebrew. I should be able to turn to this guy after all these years and go, ma rotzeh, what do you want? Talk to, I don't remember any of this beyond that. Shalom, ani David, ma rotzeh, is it ot or otai? I don't remember the feminine, the gender things. And I just remember this painful 5 minutes of this guy trying to sort of explain in broken Hebrew and mine in completely shattered Hebrew, and him trying to reach occasionally for an English word, and me and the store owner trying to throw in maybe an English word to be helpful. And somewhere he started talking about women, girl, and then sort of clothing. I can only think of the Spanish word ropa. I don't remember what the Hebrew word is for that sort of thing. But and the guy's getting more and more embarrassed until we realize, and then I think it was me, I'm not sure, or it was the store owner, and we realized that the thing he wanted to buy, the thing this poor guy who did not speak English was sent to this store to buy, was women's panties. And I'm like, I'm 10 years old, 11 years old, and I'm like, panties? And panty! We're all laughing and clapping, going panties, because it took us 10 minutes to get to this word, of all words, to come up with and I didn't know the word for panties in Hebrew. If I'd known the word panties in Hebrew, they probably would have put me in detention. So, and besides, I don't know if there probably came up with words for panty. It wouldn't have been in the Bible, so it wouldn't have been an original Hebrew word. It would have been a transliteration. I don't know. But anyway, he figured out the word, and then I don't think the store sold panties. I only was a clothing store, or it might have been, or they had, or I don't recall. But that was that beautiful moment of this shared, touching, cross-generational, cross-translational moment of 3 people, my mother, myself, and the store owner, just saying, panties, laughing and clapping, and panties. Yes, this man wants panties, hopefully, for his wife or daughter. Don't really know the whole story on that, because he couldn't tell us. He still spoke only Hebrew. But, once again, my translational skills, not quite what I hoped they would be. Somewhat lost in translation. Well, that was Dave's Big Dictionary for today, November 3rd, 2018, on Dave's Gone By.